Oh, good evening, and we're just paying another visit to Comet Atlas C2019 Y4, and yes, it is still just visible, center of screen. So while it's still there, I'll capture a few more images and we'll see if we can tweak it a little bit, see what we can see. I've not checked the focus yet. All I've done is aligned everything. Everything looks pretty much okay. Perhaps tweak the focus a little bit. But we're starting out this evening with a 30-second exposure and the gain at 250, which we found was the sweet spot for this camera setup. But without stretching the histogram, there's not a lot to see, even though when you do stretch it, there's the smudge. I think at the moment it's just a dust cloud travelling through. So I think we'll spend a bit of time on this and then perhaps go and have a look at the asteroid that's doing a flyby. See if we can do a bit of time lapse on that, see if we can catch that little bit of movement as it travels through. Right, let's go to do a 90-second exposure and see if we can pull a little bit back. Yeah, it's only just barely visible now. So I think for me this might be the last evening that I'll be able to capture it. Although I'll still have another go. Only just pick it out there now. Only just do it. I've seen a few of the images from larger telescopes, and it does seem to show 4 major pieces. And if we look inside there, 1, 2, 3, 4. I wonder if they're the 4 pieces. We'll just have to wait a few exposures and see if they stay consistent. Oh, good evening. It is breaking up and I'm struggling with my equipment on a 90-second exposure just to pull any detail out. I'm having to stretch this histogram to within an inch of its life to get any sort of body or coma at all. You can see on screen, even on the magnified view, we can see 1, 2, 3, 4 fragments, and I think there's 4 fragments on some of the more capable images. So I'll move the magnifier out the way, and that small smudge that you can see there is what remains of the comet. Ignore the amp glow in this bottom right hand corner. I'm pushing the camera a little bit beyond what it would normally do. Yeah, those 1, 2, 3, 4. I think those 4 pieces could be the fragments. Just have to go through a few more exposures, see if they stay consistently in the same area. While you're watching that, I'm just going to set up an exposure plan and do a run of about 40 captures at 90 seconds. I'll just do 30, I think. 30 should be enough. Current, luminance filter. Okay, right. Right, after this frame's done, I'm going to start the capture run. Yeah, I think those are the fragments. Those 2, that one, and I think there's one just up here somewhere. So I think those will be the 4 major fragments that I've seen in other images. Right, I'm just going to stop the live view for a second, and I'm going to start this imaging plan. It's going to last about 45 minutes, 2,700 seconds. So I just want to let it run its course, just to get a bit of data for looking at offline. I'll move the magnifier out the way. I will keep tweaking the image, just to see if we can pull a little bit more information out of it. No, it's not going to hit anything. Its trajectory takes it way clear of just about anything in the system. I do have a link to a 3D trajectory scale. It's in the discussion section of the channel. If you bear with me a second, I'll just drag it up and I'll drop it in the chat window, because it's worth having a look at, because you'll be able to see how close it actually gets to any of the planets on the system. Right, if you click on that link there, it should bring up a 3-dimensional view of its trajectory through the system. I'm just going to move the magnifier out of the way. Yeah, I think those are the 1, 2, 3, 4 major parts that still remain. But the camera, even at 90 seconds, is really struggling to pick any data up whatsoever, without absolutely stretching the bejesus out of what bit of data we're pulling in. Now, if you want to see what the image looks like without any stretching or manipulation, that's it. You can just about see the smudge. There, just about see the smudge. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're the 4 elements, I think, that are the larger remnants of what was once the main body. Yeah, I've got a little bit of movement on scope on that shot. And I've not got the cooler turned on the camera, so I might go and switch that on in a moment. Have you checked out the 3D trajectory? It doesn't come anywhere near us. If you advance through day to time, you can see Mercury moves out of the way, and there's nothing there as it goes on its journey. And you can see where Earth is in comparison to its path. We are not even close. Not even close. In fact, I'll bring it onto the main screen. You can have a look on the main screen. Right. There's the comet and its proposed trajectory. Mercury's just there. Doesn't even come close. And Earth. So as you can see, nothing to worry about as it travels through. Right, I'll move that out of the way and get back to what the camera's looking at. So I think we can say we're safe at the minute, but unfortunately it doesn't say very much for the existence of the comet beyond the next couple of days, because I think this evening is going to be about the last images I'll be able to capture with my equipment. Yeah, I can just see a couple of well, I'm assuming, yeah, these are all staying together. Those two sections there and those two there, they're all moving together. So I'm going to be assuming that those two and those two are the remains of the main body. I'm going to stay with the comet for the next half an hour or so, and then I'm going to move over and check on the asteroid going through our system. Good evening, Laura. I hope all's well. Hope everybody's keeping safe where you are. What better way to isolate than looking at the stars? It's the best way of feeling alone, looking at the vastness of space. I don't think many of these stars have got any problems with social distancing, and I think this comet's breakup is in sympathy with social distancing. It's separating itself into its own safe areas. Yeah, those four pieces are staying together. So I can almost categorically say that they're the major sections left as it's travelling through. Yes, it has indeed fragmented. I can actually show you some of the images we captured a couple of nights ago. Compared to what we're seeing on screen now, there's no major one. There is no single major element visible. We've got four. Look on the magnified section. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 pieces. And if you bear with me a second, I will bring across a couple of screen grabs. From the last couple of sessions. Right, here we go. I think this was from last night as it started to break up more significantly. Right, this one is 4 days ago, and I'll go back to one that looks like it was intact. This is the start of the breakup. It's all elongated, and the major body's being stretched. It's like a higher density of dust in that coma for that section just there. And if we go to the next one, here you can actually see the beginnings of the fragments as it's splitting up. This is the following night. There's a little bit of space developed between the major elements, and this was 3 nights ago, I do believe, 2 nights ago, and that was an evening full of oh shit, oh yeah, oh look. Sorry about the language. This one was from last night. Now this one, I'll just zoom in a little bit more. You've got a major element there. I think there's 2 edgeways on, and if you look there's a secondary tail. So I think there's a larger piece parallel to it. That's when the one of the larger pieces actually broke away in a more meaningful way. Right, let me go back. I'm not sure what the next picture is. Yeah, you can see it's fragmenting more into dust, and I think that's the last one that I captured from the other evening. Yeah, these views are from central UK, Mansfield in Nottinghamshire. It's quite a significant light pollution where I am, so just grabbing these are pushing it for the equipment I'm using. The equipment this evening is the 300mm reflector. It's a Skywatcher 300 PDS on the NEQ6 Pro mount. The camera is a ZWO ASI 174 mono. California, hi. Even if all the fragments went in vastly wild directions at great tangents, I don't think there'd be any chance of them coming near to Earth. But it may leave a debris trail that I'm not sure if we'd intercept it. Let's have another look at the 3D trajectory, see if we're going to go through its disintegrating tail. No, Earth goes nowhere near on its plane. It doesn't come anywhere close. Doesn't come anywhere close to the trajectory of the comet. I don't think it's going to make it much further than what it is on this view. So now we won't even go through the dust trail, so we're not to see any meteor showers from it. So at the moment, you can see the 2 front elements and 2 rear elements, there and there. I think they're the major elements left of the comet as it's travelling. I'll just move the magnifier out the way. You can just about see it there, pulling it from the background. If I clear all the manipulations I've done to the histogram, that's how faint it is with a 90-second exposure with this camera. Normally it would pick it up quite easily, but I think the magnitude's changed to the point where it's just on the absolute limit of what I can pull out with my equipment here. So let's see if we can tweak it a little bit more. Bring it across. It's not much of a view, but I'll keep it for record. I'll have a go at stacking it, but I don't think there'll be anything meaningful to be gained from stacking it. If you want to see the actual equipment that we're using, so we've got another 20 exposures to go. In my opinion, right, with my limited knowledge, I do believe it's a long period comet, so it's been through the system in the past, but this time it's just a little bit closer to the sun. Its trajectory is just a little bit closer to the sun than what it was in previous visits. So with it coming through the system and experiencing just a little bit more heat, that could have been just enough to start gnawing away at any weaknesses within its structure. And as soon as it gets a crack, the heat of the sun, as weak as it may be, would start working at it. But that's all theory. Without a lot more detailed information and graphics, I wouldn't be able to say with any certainty what's caused it. I can't even say for any certainty if I'll be able to photograph it tomorrow, but I'll have another look. "19 more exposures to go." bit of movement there on the scope. Still got a tiny bit of wind out here, and the scope does act like a big sail. Not be a moment, I'm just going to grab myself a drink. Back momentarily. That's a little bit better. Right, what we're looking at now. Yeah, nothing much is going to change at the minute. I know Hubble has recently got some good pictures of it. It's picked up the 4 major fragments in quite a lot of detail, but their equipment is significantly more capable than what I've got down here. I don't think there'd be any benefit from using any of the other filters, because it's not emitting light, it's just reflecting. Yeah, I think we've got 4 elements there. 2 small ones at the front, that being the major one, and these 2 fragments that are following along. The cooler should kick in on the camera in a bit. That's just starting to drop down now. I neglected to switch it on before starting. It's a bit different from this afternoon's solar viewing. At least we've got something a little bit more interesting to look at than the bit of detail we could get off the bubbling surface of the sun. This is just a little bit more interesting, although not as much detail as I'd like. There you go. Yeah, these are moving along with the comet. They're definitely not background stars, so they are fragments. It shows marked rocket-bodied heading for Atlas. I don't think so. Atlas is so far away. I don't think we've got anything capable of travelling that far without orbital boost assist slingshots around the planets. If you have a look at that 3D image of its trajectory and where it is right now compared to Earth, I'll drag it across onto the main screen. There we go, look. Here's Earth. There's Venus, Mercury. Right, and there's Atlas. So look how far away that is from Earth, and compare that distance between Earth and Venus. And how long does it take for a vehicle to go and photograph Venus, or even Mars down here? So realistically, I think whoever's telling you they're sending rockets out there have got a wilder imagination than what I've got. I didn't see any link. I didn't see any link to look at. Hey Watcher, evening mate, how are you? I think this is going to be the last evening of actual viewing of Atlas C4. It's significantly weaker than what it was last night. Bear with me, I've just had a shout from the most important place in the household, the kitchen, that food's ready. I shall be back shortly. Talk amongst yourselves. Hey Chris, I'm in the kitchen. I've escaped with food. I think a glass of wine would go down nicely with these meatballs and noodles. Yeah, I'm just observing the screen a little bit, and it's looking less and less like a comet and more like dust. I'll just leave it on that view for a bit while I finish my dinner. Yeah, that's a Dobsonian. Um, it won't do photography. It won't do photography. You need one on a equatorial mount to do photography. Just had a quick look at it. Yeah, it won't track with the Earth rotation, so you won't be able to get photographs like we're looking at now. You'll get radial lines, so you need something with an equatorial mount. Oh, pardon me, burping. Yeah, look for one that's got an equatorial mount, an EQ mount. That's an AS or a Dobsonian that you're looking at. The other types are Alt AS, which can work for shorter exposures, but you really do need an equatorial mount if you want to go into the photography side of things. I'll back in a second. have a look on that site, Rother Valley Optics. That's where I bought mine from, although the models are sold in many places and mail order as well. So if you have a look on that site there for the ones on tripods with the EQ type mounts, when I finished eating I'll have a quick look through for you and see if I can spot something around the same sort of price range for you. We've still got 7 more exposures, and then once it's finished I might move on to the asteroid and see if we can get a stop frame image of the asteroid as it goes through. Okay, back in a few minutes. Right, that's better. That's refuel the old tank. I'm good to go. Right, I'll have a quick look at telescopes for you. Something that's reasonable and yet functional. Looking at the remnants of the comet at the minute, it's breaking up really fast. Yeah, don't know what to do yet. I'll finish this exposure on 4 more exposures, and then I'll assess what we're going to do. I think we'll go across and have a look at the asteroids, see if we can find that amongst the dark skies. Yeah, there's still some detail left in there, but nothing's jumping out like it used to. Right, I found one for you to have a look at. This one you can connect to a laptop and control it with your mouse, and if you plug a camera into it, you can have a setup almost identical to what I'm using this evening to share these images. There we go, have a look at that one. No, it's not. There's nothing difficult about streaming it. It's just the time involved in setting it all up. I mean, my observatory is about 8-10 meters away. I'm in the house, sat down with a cup of tea. Well, actually a glass of lemonade at the minute. And the door's closed. I've got the light on in here. And everything's remote control. The only bit of software I've had to pay for is the one that's on screen now showing the comet, and that was only about £30. The rest of the software is free, and I mean everything was free. And the long-winded bit is getting everything set up, running the cables, the power, the networking. Once you've got those installed, I suppose you could use Wi-Fi as well if you wanted to stream Wi-Fi. But once you've got the connections and all the networking set up, all I have to do here, slide the roof open on my observatory, switch on the power supplies that power the mount and the cameras, switch the cameras on, then come and sit down. And that's all I have to do. And everything else is just clicking the mouse. But it's all in the preparation. All in the preparation. That setup on that link I've just posted, that is almost identical to what I'm using here. Yep, that scope is almost identical to what I'm using here. What we're looking at now, that scope's almost identical. So with a DSLR plugged into that, you'll be well away. And if you've got a laptop, you just need a long USB cable and a USB hub. The only things you need to plug in, your cameras and your mount. 3 USB cables into the hub and one from your hub to your laptop. And you're good to go. Yep, that's a 200mm scope, but it's a really good F ratio. So it's fast. It's really fast. It's f5. This one that I'm using is f4.9 in its native format. And if you bought that kit that is on that link, you get all the eyepieces you could want. You get a Barlow, which doubles up your imaging size. And if you actually have a look for that particular model, you might find it for sale with other people a little bit cheaper. But I'm sure I've seen it somewhere at less than £1,000. Look at that screen, it's all disappearing now. I'm wondering if I'm getting a bit of dew on the filter wheel, because we're down to 1 degree centigrade. This is the last exposure anyway. I'll go and switch the cooler off, see if it clears up somewhat. Yeah, that exact setup there, it will take you, when you first get it, to set it up on your yard or in your garden, about an hour and a half for the very first time. And if you have a look at YouTube for setting up and polar alignment, you only have to do that once to become familiar with it, and you can get it down to literally 15 minutes. Bit of movement on that shot. Yeah, polar alignment's the hardest part. And I used to... There we go, that's finished. Not this evening, not had any good shots this evening. Earlier on, I didn't do any screen grabs, mind. Earlier on, let's just go to the imaging plan. It's about as good as you get. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 distinct sections there, look. 1, 2, 3, 4. Move the magnifier out of the way. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's about the best I captured today. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's about as good as it got. Right. It is. We've followed it quite closely for the last, 6 days? From when it was bustling young whippersnapper of an asteroid, of a comet, and now look at it, it's going to pieces on us. Obviously it's disintegrating itself so it can social distance itself from its various body parts. Right, bear with me, I'm just going to switch the cooling element off on the camera, just in case I'm getting some fogging on the inside of the filter wheel causing this hazy effect on here. Be right back. Right, I've just turned it, backed it off a couple of degrees, see if that's going to settle down. Right, let's go back to live view and see what we've got. And if there's nothing significant, I'll have a look at finding the asteroid, see if we can get some movement on that. Right, you need to make sure you've got the same mount, NEQ6, and it's the Pro version, because that's the computer controlled one where you can connect it to a laptop or a computer, because you can get it on an EQ mount that's just motorized without the computer go to. So you have to read it really carefully. Right, I'm just doing a 90-second exposure on this. Ah, there you go. There you go. You have to be very careful, very careful. Let's see what this is going to tell us. Right, auto stretch. Yeah, there's not very much left to this one at the moment. Right, bear with me. I'm just going to have a look where this asteroid is and see if I can find it within my skies tonight. I do believe it's magnitude 12. Yep, got it, magnitude 12, and it's in the Cancer constellation. Right, let's bring up the planetarium, the tracker. Right, I'm just going to drag this across onto the screen so you can see where it is, and then I'll type in the coordinates to say that one there. Which is pretty close, and we'll slew over that side and see if we can pick it up. TYC 819 561 -1. There we go. Southwest, just below Regulus, and it's just above my horizon, so I should just be able to get it. Right, I'm going to slew the scope across. Let me move this screen out of the way. Yeah, it's always nice to go to any groups nearby, you know, because they're more than happy to show off the equipment and let you try it all out. And it's always a good source of information. and the local one to me here has nice open evenings. Right, I'm just going to do a slew and see if I can land on one of the nearby stars, and then walk it in from there, because my go-tos have been a little bit less than accurate of the last few nights. Right, that surprisingly enough is Regulus. I'm just going to centre that in my screen, and that's going to be my reference star for walking onto. Let me just drop this exposure down a little bit. It's going to be my reference star for getting onto the asteroid. There we go. Let me just sync onto that. Right, that's synchronized. Now, bugger me, I've just lost that reference to the asteroid. I've got to type that in all over again. How silly have I just been? Now just bear with me again. Just got to type in this coordinate, this star. TYC 819 561 -1, and there we go. Right, there we go. That should bring the scope over. Just move this out of the way on screen in a second. Right, bring that up to 5 seconds. Clear that. Clear that. Right, this star field that we're looking at right now, 10 seconds, see if that's any better, will contain the asteroid. So what we need to do a slightly longer exposure than that. I'll do 30 seconds, grab all the stars, because we don't need any faint details in the background. Magnitude 12 will be one of these brightness objects. So it'll be something about as bright as one of these. And we're going to be watching for movement over different frames. And if I set up a exposure plan, I've got a plan Blackadder. We can step through the different frames and look for movement. So let me just edit this plan. We drop it from 90 seconds down to say 30 seconds. We'll have a pause of 15 seconds between images, and we'll update current. Okay. Right. I will start this plan and we should be able to pick out some movement amongst these stars, but we need to get 2 or 3 images first for reference. No, we're looking for, it's asteroid 1998 OR2. It's that one that's going to do a close flyby in a couple of days. Really close. It's actually noted as a near-Earth object, hazardous near-Earth object. And we should be able to pick up the actual movement on it between the frames as it moves across. So I'm going to do a run of 30 exposures, and then I'm going to go to this section here. Go to the last one. I'm going to disregard those, and we're going to step through the images, and we're going to look for movement. Not that movement, that's scope creep. Let me just bring up the details for you. I'll read out what I've got on it. Right, it's 7.9 million kilometers away at the moment. It has a closing speed, or a reducing speed, of 8.6 kilometers per second. So the distance between Earth and the actual asteroid is reducing by 8.6 kilometers every second. So I think it's 3 days. 3 days before we actually get a good view of it. I'm just trying to find out its actual diameter. It's magnitude 11.95. So it is quite dim. I think it might, something like that just there. Something like that. In fact, see how that's elongated? Oh no, that's elongated as well. Because a good image, the stars would stay round, but if there's anything moving in the frame, it will be elongated. For a second there, I thought that was it, but now, right, I suppose I could start up my guiding software. That might help a little bit. Just trying to find out how big it actually is. It will pass, I've got some information now, it will pass within 3.9 million miles of Earth, which is pretty close. And the size, approximately 1.1 mile in diameter, between 1.1 and 2.5. So it could be up to 4 kilometers across. So it's big enough that it might cause a little bit of damage if it actually connected. Yeah, 1.1 miles in diameter is a little bit bigger than I'd want landing in my backyard. Oh, that was it. I was just about to try and set guiding up. Richard Burton. bear with me. Just going to start this. Just move this away. Bring that back up. I'm just connecting up the guiding equipment. But because I was using it on the sun, on solar this afternoon, I need to set up all the focusing again, because it had a different camera, different spacing, and it was completely different to what it will be in its normal configuration. Right, I'm just going to try a bit of basic guiding. I have absolutely no idea how far out the guiding is going to be this evening. So it's just going to be one of those times where you keep fingers crossed and hope it's pretty good. No, we didn't. It was a little bit barren across the surface of the sun. We did actually see the granulation, a little bit of the bubbling effect, no motion, just the static. So there was nothing meaningful. The video is on the YouTube page if you wanted to have a look at it, see what we actually saw. But to be honest, there wasn't a lot to see. Right, I'm just doing the training for the guide scope, so the guide scope should have an impact, hopefully. Another 15 seconds and I can activate it. Right, there's going to be a little bit of movement while the scope swings across and locks in. Yeah, bear with me a few seconds. For some reason my guiding just doesn't want to work this evening. It's got a mind of its own, it's just wandering off. Something for me to have a look at. Right, I'll switch it off. That is so weird. Good evening, Daniel. Welcome to the viewing. Just tried to set up guiding there. My guiding has decided to have an appearance and fight back. Right, the image just settled down on this shot because I switched the guiding off, and the star trails should disappear. There we go, look. The guiding was just dragging the scope all over the place. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to stop the sequence and start it afresh. Right, there we go. Start it fresh. We'll have a fresh set of data to scroll through. And if it's on here, we should be able to pick the movement up. And looking at the data of it, the movement, it's very, very slight. So we should really have about 5 minutes between each image to catch the movement. But if we keep the exposures every 1 minute, that's 45 seconds. Yeah, every 45 seconds, we should be able to pick up the movement on screen. Yes, Comet C2019 Y4 Atlas is just dust at the moment. There's not a lot visible as compared to the other evenings. Now I think we ought to issue hard hats coming to watch this stream, just in case we get a closer encounter. Health and safety and all that lot, I think hard hats ought to be mandatory for all people watching the stream. I don't know. Many theories on how life started on the planet, and certainly water could have been brought to the planet on asteroids, and within that water could have been the RNA, the precursor to DNA. You never know. I think we'll need at least 25 exposures before we can start flicking through the images to see if we've got any movement. Well, there could be lined hard hats with tinfoil, so nobody would ever know. I wonder if that might have been one of the Starlinks paying us a visit. Cheers, Elon. Yes, I think astronomy in the future is going to be plagued with satellite flybys like what's on screen right now. Well, at the moment on screen, I don't know. If you want some pictures of the comet, I can bring you some images that we took a few days ago, and I can go back and show you some of the last images we captured this evening. This is one from this evening. Two of the major elements and two more. These are the last images we've got tonight. Oh, go back. And if I go to some we captured the other evening, here we go. This is from a couple of nights ago. There, and it looks significantly different to what we're looking at tonight. Let me just go back. And this is one of the better images we got of it breaking up. And I think that was 3 nights ago. So it's not quite Hubble standards, but we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces there, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces there. So overall, I think we did pretty good a couple of nights ago. It is now. It was one big piece. Originally, on the first evenings that we were photographing it, it was just a standard comet, one big head with a big tail. And over the last 3, 4 evenings, we've captured it in various states of disintegration. Yeah, I've changed the temperature on the camera from 1 degree. I've turned it back up to about between 3 and 5. So I think a lot of the lower quality image was down to fogging on the filter wheel. No, it really was one piece, and as it gets closer to the sun, things change. It warms up, and any weaknesses within it would start to cause internal stresses. If one side of the comet's warming up, and the back is still in near freezing sub-zero, there's going to be tension within the major body. So the front's going to be trying to expand, the back's going to be trying to stay cooled and compact, and that stress would cause it to crack open. And if there's more than one line of weakness, it's going to break up along those lines. And as we've seen, there were 4 major pieces. And as the pieces move apart, the reason they move apart is there'd be energy expended when the stress breaks, when the internal structure breaks. It released a bit of energy which would start the movement of them separating. And as each new surface gets exposed to the heat of the sun, having been inside and cold all the time, it would start pushing away from each other and causing different movement than what there was with one solid body, if that makes any sense. Found it. There it is, that bottom one there. See where the cursor is at the bottom of the screen? Watch that bit there as I flick through the frames. Watch that white spot there as I flick through the frames. It's just moving erratically because I've got scope creep. So you can see it actually moving different pace to the stars. So there we are, that's the asteroid that's going to be paying us a visit. And there we've got movement. Right, so that wasn't a bad go-to, that, so we actually found it. All I've got to do now is resolve the scope creep. I think because I've changed things around so many times, I'm going to need to rebalance everything. Because I've done 2 camera changes, I've rotated the tube within the mounts, and I've done a little bit of recabling. So that there is our asteroid 1998 OR2. 1998 OR2. Shall I see if I can find the I think it's magnitude 12 at the moment. It needs to be less than magnitude 7 to be easily visible to the naked eye. But if you've got even an average set of binoculars, you'll be able to see it if you set your binoculars up on a tripod. And if you bear with me a second, I'll bring up the 3D trajectory plan so we can see which way it's moving. If I can land my pointer on it. Right, I've got the 3D plan, but it's the one without the asteroid on it. Bear with me. Here we go. This will help you view where it's travelling to, where it's coming from. Right. Date at the bottom. Earth. Trying to get it a proper view. Asteroid. Go back. There we go. And go forward. 20th, 21st, 22nd. That's where it is today at this very time. So it's just getting further and further away now. No, if you change the viewing angle, it's just perspective. It's just perspective. There, that's just perspective. So it's reasonably close where it is now. So that's the 3D system simulator from the skylive.com. It's what I use to find most of the objects I go chasing after. And it seems to be pretty good because it's enabled us to find this evening. I think tomorrow might be another opportunity, and it'll give me a chance in the afternoon to rebalance the telescope and everything, and see if I can get the tracking sorted out. They've actually predicted it for the next multi-thousand years, and if you have a look at I think it's the NEO observers, the NASA site. I think it's NEO observers, Near Earth Object Observers. They've got tracking data for the next multiple thousand years of it. And I think it gets closer for the next 2 years. I think the closest it gets is 1,200 kilometres. Sorry, 1.2 million kilometres. Yeah, 1 million miles, 1.2 million kilometres. About right. Yeah, about right. I don't think I'll be here in 2079. I'll sell my kit so somebody else can have a go. Right, that was a little bit easier than what I expected finding that one. We're going to have to find something a bit more challenging to locate in the near future. Yeah, as my daughter just said, my wallet. That's always hard to find. Yes, darling, I love you lots. Yeah, look how that's elongated there compared to a star. See, a star's round. That's moved. That's moved that far in 45 seconds. So that's 45 seconds worth of movement compared to 45 seconds worth of movement on a star. That looks like it's doing a U-turn. That's just down to scope creep, that is. I wonder why it's yawing backwards and forwards. I'm going to have a serious look at my equipment tomorrow, because there's some strange things going off. Anyway, that's just about to drop off the bottom. I've got 2 more frames. Might recenter it. What time we got? 11:30. I've got a really early shift in the morning. So I'll just center that in the middle of the screen for a few minutes, and we'll do a slightly shorter exposure and see if it'll move. Right, I'll be possibly on again tomorrow evening. I'm not sure what we'll go and look for, but I think we might start on this one. Yeah, if you look at the actual distances, how far away from the actual Earth it is, compared to say Venus or even Mars, the travel time is quite significant. So any meaningful vehicle to get there would have to travel a lot faster than what we've got at the minute. Right, I think that was the last exposure. It's just dropped off the bottom of the screen. Right, there we go. Right, I'm just going to recenter it a little bit. Right, see what that looks like. Right. Right. It's late. And I'm sorry to say this, but I have to be up really, really early in the morning. So I'm going to call an end to this stream. I know it's only 11:30, but I did say it was going to be a short one this evening. To all the new people that have arrived, I hope you enjoyed what you've seen this evening. It's normally pretty lively in chat, and we're always looking for something new out there. Earlier on, we're watching the remnants of the of the comet C2019 Y4 Atlas. That's breaking up nicely. Earlier on, we caught it in its solid form before it split up. This evening, we've come across to have a look at 1998 OR2. That's an asteroid. And this afternoon, we actually did a little bit of solar. Had a look at the surface of the sun. So if this is the sort of thing you like to look at, you're welcome to come back and revisit the channel and keep an eye on what we're doing in here. My name's Andy. I'll be streaming most evenings. I've got clear skies, and you're welcome to request a target. Later on next month, we'll be doing a moon tour. This is just the obligatory information what we're doing, and you're all welcome to come along for that. So please like and subscribe, leave a message, let me know what you like, what you didn't like, and hopefully you'll see me again. A lot